Did you know that the deadliest natural disaster in Australia is actually heat waves? So over the last century, heat waves have killed more Aussies than bushfires, cyclones and flood combined. So it's a massive problem here in Australia, and it's only getting worse because of climate change. So you can see here in this chart that the frequency and severity of the extreme heat events that we're experiencing here in Australia are only becoming more common with the climate crisis. And the fact is that the last decade was the hottest decade on record. Last year, 2024, was the hottest year on record, and it's not showing any signs of slowing down soon. Already last month, January, was the hottest January on record. So we're seeing more and more of this, and the reality is that these extreme heat events, these longer, hotter summers are here to stay, and it's only going to get worse. So not only does this make for uncomfortable homes and uncomfortable summers, but it's also having major impacts on our health. So heat-related illness can span from anything from your heat stroke, your headaches, your dizziness, to the other extremes of strokes and organ failure, heart attacks, and even death. And the reality is that our homes are not equipped to be able to handle the changing climate that we're now facing. And having cool homes is no longer a luxury. It's a necessity. It's something that we all need. But our homes weren't built for this. So most of housing stock is really poor thermal efficiency. There's no insulation. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done to get our homes ready for these summers that we're having and that we're going to keep having. So that's why we're all here tonight. That's what we're going to learn about. We've got our expert speaker here tonight who's going to share with you practical and actionable solutions for how you can make your home more comfortable in these summer months. But not only that, some of these solutions will make your homes more comfortable in winter as well, but they're also going to help you make your home more energy efficient. So that means that you'll be paying less for your energy costs over time because of some of these actions that you're implementing. And that's great because it's also going to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. And the reality is that it's these greenhouse gas emissions that are fueling the climate catastrophe that is driving these heat weather events. So I wanted to really briefly touch on what we at City at Newcastle are doing about this critical issue. So our Newcastle Environment Strategy outlines our commitment on climate action, which includes being net zero by 2030 for our own organisation, and we're well on our way to achieving that, but also for the broader community-wide emissions as well. So that target is net zero by 2040. And last year, as part of working towards that target, we launched our Empowering Newcastle program. So this is our community climate action program where we're working hand in hand with the community to help make the switch to renewable energy, to electrify our city and work towards this net zero future, this clean energy future. So as part of that, we've got a bunch of education resources, some of which you have seen and had a look at today, and we're happy to share more of that, including our newsletter. We run events just like we are here tonight. We also do a number of community grants to help community organisations get solar and reduce their bills, and also to support community climate action projects as well, and youth climate action projects. And we also run a suite of programs as well. So a couple that are coming up this year. One is our solar and battery bulk buy program. This is where we're helping residents who are interested in getting solar and batteries put on their home. We're going to help residents make sure that they're getting high quality systems, that they're getting a fair price, installed by quality installers and at no upfront cost, so you can pay it off over time with the savings that you're seeing from these systems, these solar and battery systems. Another program is that we're installing another 34 electric vehicle chargers across our city. So by mid this year, there will be 50 EV charging ports across our city for those that have made the switch and are planning to make the switch and the upgrade to electric vehicles as another way to save costs and reduce emissions. Another thing we're excited to launch tonight is our home energy kits, which you can have a look up at the back after the session. So this is a range of useful devices that you can take home, so you can borrow them from Newcastle libraries for free. You just need to be a member. You can take these home, and this can help you identify things that you can do in your home to reduce your energy usage and reduce those bills and greenhouse gas emissions as well. So we've got home energy kit, the high-res thermal camera, and induction cooktop as well. Feel free to come and talk to myself about these afterwards, and you can join the wait list to be able to take these home and borrow these for a couple of weeks in your home for free. That's enough from me. I'd now like to introduce our expert speaker for this evening, Dr. John Shiel. John is the principal at EnviroSustain, which is a building ecology business working with homes, offices and industry to minimise energy, water and waste. He's a civil engineer by trade, and he did his PhD in engineering at the University of Newcastle, specialising in adapting homes to climate change. So he is definitely an authority on the topic. He's written the book on it, the thesis on it. So we're very happy to have John here with us tonight. And he also wrote the zero carbon building standards for the Narara Eco Village, where he lives. So please join me in welcoming John.
This research came out of this particular book, which was Killing the Home. It came out of a grant that Beyond Zero Emissions and Hunter Joint Organisation got from the state government. So this is free off the web. You can just download it. It's a nice PDF, very well illustrated, and could be actually used. In fact, a lot of the handouts you're getting from the council, they're brilliant. They're really targeted at different sectors like renters and whatever owners. So this particular presentation will cover we'll cover retrofits, appliances, behaviour, energy efficiency assessments, and then additional resources. Retrofits refer to your envelope changes, your roof, or ceiling, walls, floor, etc. But the appliances and behaviour are quite interesting, the way you can make things more efficient and comfortable for yourself. So this is general information. It's not specific to your home, so you should really get yourself a energy assessor if you can, to look specifically at your home and get specific advice. So thermal comfort, we've got 6 parameters here that affect how comfortable you are in the house. But on top of that, you saw that image a minute ago about stress, heat stress and heat stroke. It's the core body temperature, which is everything. And if the worst comes to worst, you just dunk yourself in a cold bath, which, some of our houses are so bad, and extreme events will get so bad that you'll really, if you haven't done some of these treatments, you may need to do that. The air temperature and the radiant temperature. Radiant temperature, if you stand next to a window in the winter, you'll feel how cold it is. That's radiant. And the same in summer. If the sun's streaming in, that's probably the biggest impact, is the radiant temperature. Then it's the air temperature, the ambient temperature. Humidity then plays a big part. Once it gets above 40, your effective temperature increases quite dramatically. So it might be 24, but you might have 40%, and it's effectively 24. But you get to 50% humidity, it'll go up to about 25 effective, and things like that. Airspeed decreases that effective temperature. So you stand under a ceiling fan. The clothing, obviously, light clothes, metabolic rate. You're in the gym, you're sweating away, and you can see the problem. And the idea is to try and not get higher than 30 degrees effective temperature. And for a good night's sleep, you don't want it to go above 26. Now, this shows that this is a graph of time in terms of years, with that line there in the middle, past temperatures, average hot. That's each month is the average hot temperature for the day and night, in Lambton over the past 40 years, 20 years there, 20 years there. But the projection ahead is from the IPCC. Now, this is conservative, and the reason is they're using the highest emission scenario, but we're tracking a little bit higher than that at the moment. So that will be getting a bit worse. And the important thing you've got to notice is nights above 22, they're going to double or so in the next 20 years. So if your house is not prepared for a hot night, now's the time to try and get it fixed. So to maintain thermal comfort, this presentation will cover warm or hot days, warm nights, extreme heat events, heat waves where you get several hot days in a row. Look at Western Australia and even Queensland have had some terrible times. Even South Australia, just terrible. And then power outages. What happens? We had a 30-degree night in Lambton here about, I think it was about 6 or 7 years ago, and basically you couldn't sleep at night unless you had a ceiling fan. So they're the kind of things you've got to worry about. And if the power went out then, how would you handle that? So we've got some techniques here that we'll give you tips. So you're most at risk if you're an infant, if you're over 50, but particularly if you're over 75, it goes off the scale there. You've got chronic illnesses like heart disease, asthma, obesity, or even multiple sets of illnesses. Or you live in a lower socioeconomic region, you mightn't have any air conditioning, for example. So we'll go into retrofits now about what you can do at the envelope of the home. Now, where is it the heat escapes in winter or enters the house in summer? And can you see where if I can get this, can't really get that to work, that's fine. You can see how the ceiling is the key point. And the reason there is the sun's hitting that roof. So the ceiling is either where the heat comes in or goes out. The next big one is the windows, then the walls, the floor, and then the air leakage. The air leakage is incredible because if you're in a really old home, particularly weatherboard, it could be large, could be very large. How many people in weatherboard homes? Yeah, the Hunter's got a lot of weatherboard homes, and that'd be probably more than 20 years old, probably. Yep. Okay, so the idea is, can we attack these areas in that kind of priority? And so here is the best tips, if you like, across all these areas. And the top 3 are about the same effectiveness, if you like. 3 stars out of 3, you can say. The next 4 have got 2 stars. They're not too bad, and then a few at the end. But you can see how draft proofing, even though it's at the end, it could be actually very effective if you're living in a leaky house. Now, the cost in the middle, the draft proofing is a no-brainer. Go around with a corking gun. You can have a sealant to plug up your pipes. Little strips, weather strips, and even things like this. These are brilliant, these snakes that are double snakes. I used to have one of those so that when you move the door out and in, it just stays with the door. So it's a no-brainer to put draft sealing in place. But ceiling insulation is also a very good retrofit. But reducing the area to cool, I mean, this room here, for example, it's got a divider there. And when the divider's pulled back, it takes a lot of energy to keep this room cool. But as soon as you put that divider up, you've halved the energy. And the same goes at home. I've asked people to put curtains in for, say, 2-story houses to block off the stairs and things like that. You can put a little divider across the curtain. So reducing the area helps. Yeah, ceiling insulation. Maybe install air conditioning if you haven't got it. Then external shading stops that heat coming in the window from the outside, stops one mechanism. And then internal window coverings cover the stop the other mechanism, which is conduction. And then ceiling fans, painting a roof a lighter colour, and window films. You're right, no problem. And then the interesting thing is here with insulation in the ceiling, be careful about, that home insulation program where we had some deaths and that kind of thing. So it's a bit dangerous, and there's some regulations around how that should be done. So in a way, perhaps that's not really a DIY retrofit. So insulation is one of the best returns on investment. For about the $2,000 mark, you can get a clean energy fund loan, which is a cheaper loan, and it's actually a pretty good investment. And of course, if you've got a pre-1990 home, you probably haven't got any insulation in the roof unless you've got the home insulation program done. And pre-2004, well, you might have a little bit, but not enough. So it's only a $2,000 will probably do your whole house. Maybe that was a few years ago, but a bit more, maybe 2.5, 3. And here's some priorities that we can go. By the way, you can get a link to these slides after it, so don't worry if I have to thrash through this a little bit quickly, because there's a fair bit of information on these slides. Now, this is fascinating. Who's interested in hiring or renting those or borrowing those cameras? The infrared cameras. Now, the way they work, every hot object radiates a little bit of heat. It emits a little bit of heat. And when you train that gun on it, what it does is it looks at how much radiation happens and it converts that to a temperature. So it's an approximate temperature. And you can see these 3 on the left here. They're all got crosses on the right-hand top corner. And what they're saying is they're holes there's no insulation there where there should be. So your ceiling should have a complete, should be the darker red, but the light or yellow says there's a bit of a hole there. Whereas here, there has to be a bit of a hole around your lights and things like this, because that's a lot of heat there and you can't put insulation around that. That's just the rule. Draft proofing, I won't go through this right-hand side, but there's lots and lots of places. I had an old chimney. Anywhere you had a pipe in the kitchen, you'll find they've left a hole. There's around windows and doors, you can put seals, foam seals you can buy off Bunnings or where. There's so many places in the house that you can gum up and put sealant or, that you can easily get caulking guns and weather stripping, etc. You can make a big difference to the house, just this one retrofit alone. There's the windows, they're just holes in the wall. If you've got single glazing, the temperature outside, if it's a really cold night, is exactly the same as the temperature next to the window. And the same if it's hot day. If it's 40 degrees, which it was recently, it'll be 40 degrees inside your house, the other side of that glazing. In summer, you want to try and keep, when the sun's high, either have deciduous landscaping or a bit of an eaves that'll stop the sun coming in. That's the passive house design. Or in winter, when that sun goes down and it comes through at a lower angle, the sun gets attracted into the house and warms up the floor. And you can see how the deciduous tree now has lost its leaves. So that's a great passive house design for a home, and everyone should be aiming for something like that. Drag the heat in the winter, block it in the summer. And the 2 mechanisms then are the radiation, where the heat's transmitted through the glass, and the second priority there, where the heat is conducted through, particularly if it's single glazing. And of course, shading, external shading is the best way to stop the sun coming in, or in the case of conduction, double glazing, which is a bit expensive, but you can have internal window coverings. Like the ideal one is remember the old pelmets? They were no ordinary reason. So if you had a thermal lined curtain going all the way to the floor, and you had a pelmet, what you're doing is you're stopping this kind of effect. So in winter, the cold air drops, and you're stopping any circulation of cold air into the room. And in summer, you're stopping this effect, which is the warm air coming into the room. So the pelmet's very important and going all the way to the ground. Or a low E film, the low E film can trap the air as well. Now, the benefits of window treatments, just see how for time. Okay. Right, so look, there's the two mechanisms, the radiation, the transmission through the window, and then the conduction. And what this is doing, if you borrow your infrared gun and train it on a shaded wall and look at a window, if you like, where it's shaded and one that's not shaded, you can see one's 22 degrees and the other's 35, but the temperature outside is 23. So you can see a huge difference, 13 degrees difference. Now, even though this is shaded, this is the window and it's the wall. So even though the window is shaded, it is still 31 degrees because it's 31 degrees outside. So it's the same, even though it's shaded, but the thing is, the conduction is still coming through the ambient temperature. So this is how you can test. I tried the infrared around here, and the insulation's pretty good in this room. So that's how you can test your ceiling, the walls, etc. And then now this shows you some examples of what you can do at home. And look, some of this, who's renting the place? Has there got many people renting? Yeah, look, there are some ultra, affordable things you can do, like pot plants that have a big bushy tree that's deciduous or something outside your northern windows. I mean, and it's a bit of landscaping, leaves, you can have your eaves above your windows. You can have vertical slatted screens or a bit of landscaping. You can have lines or roll the awnings that flip down outside, and they can be transparent to some degree. And then you can have a shade sail. I had a shade sail in Northampton, and it made a huge difference because I had a concrete drive. So I just strung that across the whole drive. It made a huge difference because the sun will reflect off your concrete drive and just drive into the window. Now here shows you the difference between unshaded house and then a shaded house. So you can see the landscaping shading, and here 50 against 30. It's a no-brainer. You've got to put as much shading as you can around and use screens, blinds, or landscaping. Oh yeah, and this even says it's a cream garage door. So it's not even a dark coloured door. And so here's your window coverings, and there's that idea about the pelmet and the thermal lined curtain and the way you can stop that circulation. And the plantation shutters are a great idea. Who's anyone got plantation shutters? Yep, got a couple there. So they're a good way to block the heat from basically the conduction side of things. And the honeycomb blinds, I know we got at least one person in the room with a honeycomb blind. Anyone else got a honeycomb blind? There's two. Look, there's 2 or 3 different types of honeycomb blinds, but they're basically you can get them, so I think single thickness if you like. Then you get a double in the middle or a triple in the middle. You can actually get like a 3 effect, and the ones in the middle can be reflective. They're R1. You know what I'm saying? That windows usually are like R point, I don't know, 2 or something. They're very small resistance. But when you come to this type of honeycomb blind, it's almost like putting half a wall in there. It's brilliant. They are a little bit, you've got to be careful with them, but and these ones can pull up for privacy, if you think of it that way, or pull down. So quite a nice blind. Now, there's more window treatments. Basically, we've got to try and stop that transmitted heat from striking the glass. You can have a reflective foil, and this is particularly good in the West. So it's like a perforated aluminium. Your buses, you can look out the window on the bus, but you can't look in. It's that kind of effect. So it'll reflect. In fact, I was at a neighbour's place down in my eco village recently, and she has a big problem with heat in her eastern bedroom. And I said, I just get a blind, and she'd be right. I just did that to myself And she says, no, I want to look out. It's my happy space. Oh, I go, well, okay, no problem. We'll see if we can get you the rain shade, and we'll try and get that on the external and see what happens. Anyway, so look. Window treatments like films will get a little bit tricky. Your best bet's to get an energy audit there, and you can get an energy audit perhaps up around the $300 mark, depending on scorecard or not scorecard, etc. The thing about renters, quite a few people renting it, you can get a really affordable renting trip by putting in bubble wrap or cling wrap. With the cling wrap, you put it on the window, the external part of the window, and then hit it with the with your hot blower for the air dryer. So your hair dryer. But there's a the Clear Comfort product as well. And then we've got shade cloths, and we've got removable films as well. You can paint your roof a lighter colour. That's probably not a DIY, but definitely with lighter colours, as you can see down here, lower temperatures. These dark roofs, they create a huge problem out west, particularly Western Sydney, Penrith, Blackhead, those areas. The estates, they shouldn't have that. They've got a high urban heat island effect. It makes things really hot. So if you can get your roofs a lighter colour, or certainly if you're changing your roof, we hold questions to the end, Esther. Thanks. It's just that there's a few slides to get through. And you can also put an exhaust fan in the roof space, put a thermostat on that, and that'll help take the heat out and maybe still leave the heat in there for winter. So we'll move on to appliances, and also looked at resilient cooling appliances for air conditioning. So the first trick is make sure you do the energy retrofits first. And the reason is you'll need a smaller air conditioner. You'll save your money in running that smaller air conditioner. So that in other words, it won't cost you too much to get those energy retrofits done. So they're saying you can. The cheapest one really is a reverse cycle. Then look at ducted, and then portable. The ducted loses 10% of energy, so it's not that efficient. The portables, well, you don't get them as efficient as the reverse cycle. And the reverse cycle, then what it means is you can use it for heating as well as cooling. And they're often split systems. There'll be one outside the house and then the duct on the wall, the thing on the wall. Yeah. So, and then it's very important to maintain these at least once a year. So you can actually pull the cover up, There's a little filter in there. Just take it out, clean that filter, put it back. And also the set points are very important. Who goes into a house? Even this room here is probably about 22, 23 at the moment. My hands are freezing. That's a particular guy that you set it at that temperature if you want a high productivity in an office. And that's and I used to go to uni, and that's the temperature. I used to have to wear gloves at uni. Anyway, the ideal temperature is more like the 24, and you do save quite a lot of energy, 10% every time you raise it 1 degree. So this library could be, you could be using less energy by raising the set point a couple of degrees, and you can combine it with a fan. So put the fan on. And if you've got solar PV, anyone got solar PV? Oh, good. Put your air conditioning, run it even during the day. So we'd run ours for perhaps an hour or two when the sun's out, and then that keeps it nice and cool for the evening. And that way you reduce your costs and everything. Okay. So ceiling fans and cross ventilation, this is probably the easiest way to stay cool with airspeed. And very few people know how to manage natural ventilation. Who's got southern windows that they keep on opening up the window? This is it. See, you've got to have your fly screens, your security screens and all that. And then when that southerly breeze comes through, the change, take advantage of it. So natural ventilation is brilliant. But if you haven't got a breeze there, certainly use a ceiling fan. And they're very cheap to run, much cheaper than an air conditioner. The DC ones are more efficient, direct current. And the best fan of all, and my supervisor was an architectural. He was an aeronautical architect, basically, and he was the guy that had the patent on the big ass fans, the ones in Bunnings. So he invented that, and it's got a special technique. It sweeps every so often, just slowly, and it actually gives you a bit of a burst, if you like, and that's a more effective way of keeping you cool than a fast fan. So he worked all that out. So if you can get a remote control 5-speed, there's no need to reverse it. Most fans you have to reverse summer, winter, you keep forgetting. But they're 3-speed usually. And the reason for that is the lowest speed is still a bit too fast in winter, and you want to kick it off the ceiling and just do it that way. But the 5-speed, you can just have the first speed coming down nice and gently and keeping the heat down. So, and the remote control, when you're in bed, you can just switch it off in the middle of summer if you need it, things like that. Now, there's some programs going on here, which is brilliant. The council's doing quite a lot of good stuff, and the Sunspot you can go to help you get PV and batteries. The council's actually getting a solar and battery bulk buy with installers that they know are good installers, and you don't have to pay any money up front. So they'll install it, and then you just pay it off with the savings. And you've got the option to participate in a virtual power plant. What that means is you may be able to get more rewards back and pay it off even quicker. And Energy Made Easy is a website where you can jump on there and the government will compare your bill requirements, if you like, and look at other suppliers, other energy retailers who may be able to supply a better deal or a cheaper deal. And you go back to your supplier and say, I can get a deal like this, and they'll probably reduce their one by 10%. This is where we have resilient appliances. Have anyone had any blackouts lately?
What, David?
Yeah, well, we had some down in Narara, but didn't affect our village. We have our own big battery inside, so we don't go off. But this was Professor Pear's worked this out for us, that you could actually have quite a low kilowatt hour requirement needed overnight just to keep the essentials running if the power goes off. So imagine you don't have a huge battery to supply that if the power is out. So we worked out perhaps a 6 kilowatt hour battery or three N phases, 3 kilowatt hour N phases. So if the power fails during heat waves, you can get a solar with a battery backup, and the battery can work then without the external grid. So you isolate the house. Then you run your essential appliances overnight, and try and concentrate on having a small air conditioner. So they have an inverter on it, so it kicks off gently, and then it can run quite low, and perhaps only powers one room. And I'll come to where you want to have that room in a minute. And if you really think, okay, I don't want to go to all this trouble, maybe you could just have a generator. Go and buy a generator. My brother, remember the Pasha storm? I was off for 3 or 4 days in down around Wangi Way or Rathmines, and my brother-in-law had to get himself a generator for that. And the kind of devices you might want to use during these blackouts are things like, as I said, the low-powered air conditioner, if you're lucky enough to have your solar battery. But down the bottom there, personal battery fans. Remember the old days, you'd have a little battery-powered little fan that you just hold on your face? Well, that's probably the bare sort of the easiest way to go. It's a bit old school. You could go, if you're in the country, you might have a sprinkler system on your house in case a bushfire was coming. That sprinkler system could be turned on to cool the house, because the latent energy would just cool the house right down. Like for example, a sudden rainstorm on a hot day. And then ceiling fans, well, that assume you have solar battery. Now, this is really a combination of behaviour, retrofits, and appliances. But it's saying go to the southeast corner of your house or the basement area, which is the coolest area in the whole home, and try and, if you haven't got the initiative to do the whole house, just do one room. And go in there, make sure you've got your curtains, make sure you've got your shading, make sure you've got your tiny little air conditioner, you've got a solar battery. This is your resilient room. They call it the cool retreat. You can have limited funds, but you can be very resilient during a blackout heat wave. And you'd also insulate the internal walls. You would put make sure your gaps are all done, window coverings and all that. Now, what would happen if there's a heat wave in the morning? So tomorrow, the news is saying, oh, look, from here on, we're going to have 40-degree days and 35-degree nights. Well, what you want to do is make sure the first thing you want to do is what they call night purging. Open up the whole house. Now, this assumes you've got fly screens, security screens, and that you're not next to a noisy street and all that. And what you want to do is, first of all, go around the house and open everything up. And then overnight, let the whole house cool down as much as you can. And once that happens, you set the temperature of the house, if you can, down to 22, 20, or whatever, that order. And then you're going to get a 40-degree day. But what you do then, the first thing in the morning, you go through on the eastern side, you close all the curtains, close everything up. What you're trying to do is protect the living room and all the bedrooms with that low temperature. So you close all the internals doors in those areas. And then what you do is make sure nothing will come in from the outside for the east in the morning, early morning. And during the day, make sure the north and then the west, you close all them down. And then hopefully by then, you might have it up to, I don't know, in the living room, I might get as high as 28. Your ceiling fans can keep you comfortable there. But hopefully the bedrooms have been kept below the, and I know so as some people here, their bedrooms are not, they've got bedrooms on the west and, they're not going to be that comfortable. But if you can keep the bedrooms to 24, that's great. Or if they start getting above 26, then you've got to go to the other extremes. You've got to then look at that core body temperature protection. And so it's things like, start getting wet cloths and dampening your hair and all sorts of cool drinks and maybe a cool bath. You've got to start stopping yourself from getting heat stress, and then it'll progress to heat stroke. And you've got to watch those symptoms if your heart rate goes up and all that. So it's important that hopefully you can guard against the. So I have had a friend in Newcastle. They swapped their living room and their bedroom, and that was to get the bedroom onto the south side. And that's a good trick, and it's not that hard to do. And that's one way of combating that. But then once the temperature, you keep watching. I always monitor my internal temperatures, and I keep an eye on what the news says for the outside. And then once the internal temperature, once the external drops below my internal, it's time to open up again and do more night purging. And you can even put the fan behind that. I used to have a vertical fan, horizontal, one of those on a stick that might blow horizontally. And I'd get that out and I'd open up the doors and everything, and I'd start bringing in the cool air. So you can see that you can, with a bit of good behaviour management, knowing how the science of heat transfer works, how to block the heat and where the heat's coming from, you can probably manage even a poorly designed home. The home I had was a 2-star house in Northampton, and we did some retrofitting, bringing it up to about 6 stars. So, but still with a 30 degrees at night, I can tell you, that was with the 6 stars. So then, if it's an extremely hot day, what do you do? Okay, now, you've really got to perhaps leave the house because you might know for air conditioning, right? So you would go to somewhere like a council. Hopefully, councils identified these locations. They're probably shopping centres, libraries, public pools, movie theatres, restaurants. Friends or relatives out there might have air conditioning for you. But you've got to plan how you're going to get there. If you're not quite as mobile, you may need a taxi or and then plan your medications. Maybe some medicines have to come along because you may have to stay the night over there and things like that. So you've got to plan exactly on extreme heat days, what are you going to do? And then looking after others, you've got neighbours and friends, are they okay? Very important to look after them. Your pets, you saw what happened in the bushfires and even the wildlife. So I've got to try and look after them as well. And then if we talk about assessments, energy efficiency assessments, basically there's a thing called an efficiency scorecard, and Ian Wilcox, who was here earlier doing some of the expert workshop, he's well, I'm not sure if he's getting accredited or it already is, but yeah, he can do the scorecard. There's a new one coming out by the federal government, and they're trying to combine the scorecard with NAFAs, and the whole thing's moving quickly. And what they're trying to do is, has anyone seen how Canberra if you sell a house or lease a house, you have to get a star rating. It's called mandatory disclosure. That they're trying to bring that in for the whole of Australia, and it's getting here. So, and that's why they're moving towards merging scorecard and NAFAs. So you should be able to. This price, it'll probably be coming down a bit, but it's quite a good scheme. And they give you a list of here's all the things you can do. It's a bit of a template, and they'll tick the ones that suit you and give you a rough idea of what happens. But you can see they go right into it. I used to do some neighbours assessments, and we'd be looking up the model and the energy ratings for every appliance, and then we'd give you a star rating for the house. Show you how much carbon dioxide you're using. So it's a great way to get a particular, a professional view for your house. So if we're now trying to reduce our impact from an energy point of view for the whole house, how would you do it? Well, you want to get off gas. Now, gas, we can't get to zero carbon or zero energy with gas. Gas is going to be the one fossil fuel. You might put yourself on electricity and have solar panels and batteries and everything, but if you've got gas in the house, you're going to have to get off that to get down to 100% renewables. You reduce your demand in the house by getting that envelope nice and tight, do the insulation, do all those things to the envelope. And you can improve your appliances and behaviours. You can then with your say you're planning. You know that your hot water system is going to go. You should be doing the research now. Is it going to be the solar hot water system? Is it going to be a heat pump, or is it going to be resistive? I'd be recommending a heat pump. There's 3 types. There's the cheap one, the middle range, and the expensive one. And the middle range is good enough. The propane type heat pumps, there's quite a lot of them. They're about the $3,000-$4,000 mark, and they've got a reasonable warranty. The solar hot water now is a bit more expensive. It has to be boosted by gas or electric anyway. So, And that book by Tim Forsey, anyone heard of the My Efficient Electric Home, the Facebook page or the book? Yeah, well, he has got a good chapter there on heat pumps, a hot water system. Now, you can have smart controls. You can have sensors on your lighting. You can have all sorts of ventilation, heating and cooling. You can have an air conditioner that's on the internet. You can have it timed so that it comes on at a certain time, et cetera, et cetera. So you can be, there's all sorts of home automation systems that you could to make yourself have a smart home. So they only use the energy when you need it. So we have timers on our hot water systems. We have sensors on the lights, et cetera, et cetera. The solar and battery, well, that's a no-brainer. Solar is almost, if you own a house and you haven't got solar on, well, you're losing money because the retailer is charging you more money than what you can do by putting solar on, and after 5 or a bit more years, the saving you get by that sort of the fact that the return on investment is up around the 20% or something. It's just a no-brainer. You should have solar. And after about, I can't remember how many years, once you've paid it, it's free if you like, and then you're just paying a small amount to the retailer. Back in the days, did anyone get onto that scheme where you had 66 cents per kilowatt hour? Yeah. Well, that was the scheme. You pay that off pretty quick. I got one there, but the cost of the systems back then were crazy. I think it was $16,000 for a 3 kilowatt system. Mm-hmm. And it's 3 kilowatts. It's 3,000 now. Anyway, so batteries are the interesting ones now. Don't buy a battery. Well, you could, but if you did perhaps buy a small one for the resilience side, but the bi-directional charging of vehicles is almost here. They call it bi-di. Has anyone got an electric vehicle? Yeah, we got a few. So you got batteries on wheels there, and there's boxes coming that maybe $6,000. You'll be able to plug it into your house, and it'll charge your car, and then you can use it at night to charge your home. So you'll be saving, and you can even play on the spot market, and then get some money out of the car. You can pay off the car. So yeah, it's all coming. And the question really is, do you want to jump and put a little battery on the house as well? Some people have. In our village, we'd have at least half a dozen batteries on homes, as well as having a big battery for the whole village. And then finally, if you're on anyone on high-rise units, no? Okay, well, if you're in a high-rise unit, you're difficult to put solar and things like that on. Well, you can go and buy green power for an extra 10%. You've just got yourself 100% renewable energy. So it's the easiest way to go. So you can see all the options of how to reduce your impact. And that's how we should be trying to get to zero energy and zero carbon, zero net. Here's some good resources. The council's getting quite a lot of really good material here for you. The top two on the left are free on the web, and that's the book at the back, Your Home books, and this one here, which is the Building Your Home. That's the BZD. So, and this is a brilliant.
Nice, take the heavy one though.
Well,
read it online.
This is the 6th edition. I think I got about the 4th. Even then, it was pretty heavy, but a lot of really good tips. But the easiest way to use it online and just do a search on something, search on insulation. A big long, tells you how to do it, what has to be done. It's brilliant. And it's coming out in the 6th edition with batteries and all sorts of really good stuff. Cooling your home, well, this has got all those tips in there for resilient cooling devices, even evaporative coolers if you're out west. Is anyone not at Newcastle, but a bit further out, maybe? No? Or CBD? Oh, okay, where are you from? You? Whereabouts? Oh, okay, yeah, well, maybe you're a candidate for an evaporative cooler because it doesn't work with humidity. So then we've got Cooling Your Home. We've got My Efficient Electric Home Handbook, but really, and Brian contributes that quite a lot on Facebook. And you can just jump on Facebook and search for any product really, and you'll get all the latest info. The Big Switch, of course, with Saul Griffith. And then, of course, all the great resources that the council's bringing to bear. Hopefully you know now how to use the infrared cameras and how to look at your insulation or your windows or whatever, and even have a look at that induction cooktop. You just need different cookware. Does the council supply the cookware as well? That's true. And of course, all these handouts, which are great, really good assets.
Does anyone have any questions for John? Free to level advice.
I wish to have them, but
Everything, John. You say tile roof, then is there a difference, say, between terracotta roofs and the concrete roofs?
is there a difference?
Yeah, in terms of that level of efficiency, I guess.
Look, they're both, if you like, depends really on the colour to a large extent. From an operational point of view, in other words, to how much heat would transfer. They're both, if you like, similar in terms of properties that would allow the heat through. Can I say that currently I'm measuring the embodied carbon of steel roofs, and you can see how that's quite high, but it's still a thin steel roof, and the embodied carbon of these are basically brick, if you like, any ceramic or the tile roof. So there's a little bit of embodied carbon to be thought about. And I haven't looked at the comparison. Is one much better than the other? But certainly if
I was going to say, any roof has to have a layer of insulation over it, whereas tile wood doesn't. So metal wood would be higher than this.
Yeah, so if you're going to compare those two, basically the tile roof is leaky. Look at it that way. But so it will allow maybe the air to escape and everything in summer a little bit faster than metal roof. But yeah, look, I think we're doing we have a hobbit house in the village, which is an earth roof, green roof, and earth walls. There's almost no embodied carbon, but it's going to be really interesting to see how much that stacks up against a normal house. Trying to measure that. So, Ishta?
I was just wondering what the difference was between in temperature between the painted roof and the non-painted roof.
Okay. I think that was on a slide. Yep. I think it was just here somewhere. There it is. So the dark roofs were 60 degrees, and you can see why people, basically fried in the roof when they were doing the home insulation program. Because the roof space would have been 80 degrees plus. So about 60 degrees higher, whereas the light roof down around 40.
Yeah, and so that would reduce radiant heat as well, like. Or
Sure how that would, but I guess when you think about it, there's two properties of one is a reflective, and the other is how much does it emit. So the light colour will reflect, but then the energy will emit as well. There's a product called surf mist, which is very, very low for both those. Very good for both those. And there's another one now just come out. I can't remember what it is, but it's even.
It's pretty much like white, like a tiny bit of grey. It's almost like white. Yeah. The big thing is like this was the research done in like Western Sydney, and you can see here it's really only the white roofs and the really pale roofs that are still green and light blue. So the aim of the game is light a bit. I put on like a light grey, and it's not surface, and it's still too warm. Yeah, so lighter, the lightest is better. And the only other thing to say about the tiles is obviously at night they hold the heat. So that concrete, it's got thermal mass, which is fine when it's shaded, but at night it means it's like having a hot blanket on your roof, and then it won't cool down. So if you're doing a reno and you've got a choice of either putting tiles back on or doing tin will cool down a lot quicker. So you won't have that hot blanket on at night. So that's probably one of the other big differences. So yeah, but it also does depend. I have a tin roof, but it does have insulation under the metal and also the ceiling. Whereas obviously you can get away with not having insulation under a tile roof because it's got that thickness. But yeah. And the other bad thing about concrete roofs and concrete tiles, they shed quite a bit. So I've got a friend and he bitterly complains that he collects no water in his tank anymore because it's constantly, the filters constantly clog up because it's shedding bits. And this is a house built in like 2007. So his concrete tiles have certainly degraded really quickly. And yeah, they're obviously shedding all the time.
Okay, unlike the normal tiled roof, which is
unlike terracotta, which is like baked, and like my parents have got terracotta roof, it's like 100 years old, and it still looks like it was when it was built. Like
they go a bit brittle.
Yeah, they go. Yeah, it did all my parents' roof. But yes, those baked. We seem to have gone away from terracotta tiles, which were really good in the sense that they were baked in shed. But problem is that there's still all baked on your house, and like that.
Can I just ask about whirlybirds? We've got a tin roof and insulation, but someone was saying that we should put in a whirlybird to take out the heat in summer, and then turn it off. I think if you have electric one in the wintertime to stop the, dragging that heat out.
Yeah, look, we're having that chat. The whirlybird, it's kind of like a variable gusting of depending on the wind. Whereas if you have the exhaust fan, it's got a thermostat on it and it's controlled. It means as soon as the temperature goes a bit high, it exhausts rather than waiting on just the odd gust to come through. But yeah, it's a bit different.
Yeah, that section applies to whirlybirds don't work. Try to go with something that's like an actual mechanic, actually pumps the air out, effectively. That's what I want to go with.
Yeah.
Can I make another top one question?
So yeah, sure. Just go one more question if we can.
The roof, if you've got a dark roof, is there some sort of coating you need to or repainting that would be more effective for replacing?
Was the question, is there a paint to repaint the roof? Is that what you're getting at?
Is there some sort of better thermal?
Look, there's
Cheaper and cheaper than replacing the roof?
there's a thing called cool paint, and all the supermarkets use it because I don't know if you've been in the supermarket. It's like walking through an open fridge. They just leave. They just don't have any covers, and they should have triple glazing on all their fridges. We did a calculation once with Beyond Zero Emissions. It showed you could just more than half, maybe a quarter of your energy in a supermarket by putting the right. But the thing is, it's expensive, and you may need 2 coats. So, and besides that, it's probably not a DIY retrofit. I don't think I'd be on a roof.
Out there, but yeah, you got to pay someone to do it.
Yeah. There's a couple of products out there, but and they do work. So I did research it, and but it's borderline whether it's cost effective. Yeah,
It'll be about 5 to 6 grand to spray a roof normally.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I might just do a quick wrap up if anyone does have to duck off, because it is right on 6:30, and then perhaps John, if you can stay around and answer a few more questions, that would be great if anyone does want to ask more questions of John. But I just wanted to say a big thank you to John for coming along and sharing your wisdom with us tonight. I certainly learnt a lot, and I saw a few people taking notes, and thank you so much for the questions, and thank you to everyone for coming along this afternoon. We really appreciate it. I just want to do a shout out to my colleague Bailey for organising and coordinating this event. So well done, Bailey, and thanks to Finley and Heather as well. And thanks to our volunteer assessors that came in for the consults as well. If you are interested in hearing more updates from Council or being the first to know about our solar and battery bulk buy when that opens later in the year, you can subscribe using the QR code to our newsletters. This is all about energy efficiency, emissions reduction, comfort on your home, all of these sort of topics. So you can subscribe there. Please feel free to take some action plans on your way out as well. So there's an action plan there all about cooling down your home, which summarises everything that you've learnt this evening. We'll also share the recording and all the slides with you as well in an email tomorrow, so you have a copy of all of this information. If you are interested in borrowing one of the home energy kits at the back, just write your details on the form over here on the side, and you'll go on the wait list for when that becomes available. And we also have some double door snakes to give out as well that have been made by one of our local community organisations, Upcycle Newcastle. So all handmade, hand sewn, all using 100% reused fabrics, secondhand beanbag balls. They're absolutely fantastic. They've done a great job. So, but in the spirit of sustainability, please only take one if you need it, and we'll use it. And one per person would be great. So please grab one of those on the way out if you're interested. I think that's it from me. Thank you so much for coming along.
Just one thing, John mentioned that the CSRO would look at the new scheme to bring rating systems to existing homes. So we'll also include a link. So they're running a trial. They're looking for guinea pigs to participate in free home assessments. To basically trial the people that are going to be running it. So getting feedback on how to actually they roll it out more widespread, how to do it. So we will send you a link to that. So there's no guarantee you'll get a slot, but you know, it's a pre-home assessment that you don't pay for.
Yeah, it'll save you $300 for some tailored advice.
Yeah, yeah, and obviously, probably one thing that comes out of that is mandatory home disclosure is probably going to come, because if they're going to roll out the scheme, you will, when you come to sell or lease, have to probably potentially put a star rating on your house. And a house that rates 8, 7, 6, 7, 8 stars is probably going to go better price-wise. They say it's about 2 to 5% premium. The one has a really old score. So there's probably a return on investment that even if you do it just yourself when you come to sell, it's likely that will feed back in. So yeah.
Increase the value of your home.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sally. And thank you everyone for coming on. Hey.